Truth.
Truth. Welcome to Trusting the Truth with Samuel Tolley, where we view the world through the lens of Jesus Christ. We do not view Jesus Christ through the lens of the world. How you doing? This is Samuel Tolley. Today on Trusting the Truth, we're going to talk about children again. You know, I'm talking about children a lot. I got many videos on it because they're coming after the kids. People like me, senior citizens, as it were, they figure we're going to die off. But our children, they're working on, but especially our grandchildren. They're coming after them with everything they have. And once those grandchildren get to be the senior citizens that many of us are, it may be too late for this country. It is time for us to pay attention to what's going on. It's time for us to stand up. Those of us that are old enough to understand when this republic still believed in the Constitution, when it still believed in the sanctity of the family, when it still believed that one man and one woman should be married, need to speak up. We need to be honest and forthright with the knowledge and understanding that this country is crumbling right before us. Too many Christians sit around and talk about, yes, I know it's bad, but I'm praying for the Lord to make a change. But many times when God is going to make a change, he doesn't make a change just by himself. I mean, he told Moses to take a staff out there in the water, and then they separated it. He sent David out there to get to get Goliath. He sent Elijah to Mount Carmel to deal with Baal's prophets. He sent the spies into the promised land. And then when only Joshua and Caleb came back talking about, we can take it, and everybody else was talking crazy, he made them walk 40 years in the wilderness because they didn't have faith and they wouldn't stick with God's plan and what man's. So God isn't waiting for us, to sit around and just pray to him. God is waiting for us to move. Yes, pray. Yes, have faith, but you have to walk by faith. You don't stand still by it. I've been talking about how the Communist Party set up goals to destroy America. In 1963, according to a book called The Naked Communists, they had 45 specific goals at that time they want to implement. Now, I want to talk about 5 of those goals. Let's look at them. Not this one, the other one. Okay, these five of those goals. Goal number 17, get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. Many of our schools do not teach civics. Many of our students have no understanding on how government is supposed to function. That in our federal government and many of our state governments, we have 3 different spheres of government. We have the judicial section, the legislative, and the executive. The president is of the executive. The judges are in the judicial, and the Congress and Senate, who make up the laws, are in the legislative. We have people running around here saying that we should be socialist, that socialism is better. We have them in our government, Bernie Sanders and AOC and the like. And many students now are running around saying the same nonsense because they don't understand that socialism has never worked anywhere. All you have to do is look at Venezuela, and the people are starving over there. And Cuba, since Fidel Castro back in 1959, still hasn't progressed. But the mantra that's always given to us is that it was never done right. We will do it right. Well, doing it right always entails the elite being taken care of and the poor struggling. And in the United States right now, the elite is being taken care of. The poor is struggling, and they're truncating and shrinking the middle class, which is the backbone of this country. Now, our schools are in trouble. Our schools are not teaching what they should be teaching. And we, as parents, need to grab a hold to it. The Democratic Party is in control of the teachers' union. That's part of this thing. And the teachers' union does not want the parents to have control of their children. In many cases, now we have teachers and clinics, nurses, and whatnot, telling our children that they can have same sex, change their sex, that your sex is fluid, that you don't have to believe that you are what you were biologically, which is a lie. Biologically, you are what God made you to be and nothing else. Yeah, that's better. Um, but these people have a way that they're really working against the family, and the family needs to be protected. They soften the curriculum, just like it says here. In many schools, they don't even teach. In Baltimore, there were every high school and elementary school in the city. People were not proficient in math. Nobody. How can you raise a society to achieve like that? Also, in Oregon, they suspended academic requirements to the year 2025. If you don't hold children accountable to learn, they won't learn. But at the same time, the teachers union protects the teachers. They don't have to teach. So pretty much goal number 17 has taken effect and is pretty much just the way the communists wanted it. Goal 26, present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. I cannot find a decent new show on TV without watching homosexuality. There was a show I was trying to watch a few days ago. I think it was called Tracker, a CBS show. And I'm watching this thing. Okay, this guy has his pickup truck and he helps people. From what I could see, some lady was injured in the mountains and he helped her. And I guess, he gets paid for it. And the show looks interesting up until the point where they showed him talking. He was in his RV and he was talking to these two women. And this one woman looked really butch. I mean, she had on like a big old man's shirt. Her hair was cut like a man. And I'm thinking, okay, they're trying to slide this in. So I'm still tolerating this stuff. So I'm dealing with the show some more. Then later on, it goes back to that woman with another woman. Now they're going to bed. It's like a man and his wife going to bed. At that point, I had to cut it off. I had enough. They've been throwing this stuff down our throat that is supposed to be normal. And the problem is, too many Christians, too many Bible professing believers in Jesus Christ are not standing up and saying, I'm not taking this. I'm not having it. If all the folks that claim they're Christians in this country would stand up, things would change. Just like I said, it reminds me, just like going back to David and Goliath. All the dadgum soldiers for the Jewish people were afraid of Goliath. It took a little boy that had the spirit of God in him to stand up to him. These folks in Hollywood don't control our lives. They don't control anything. All you have to do is go back and look at the Budweiser uh, protest that happened when they had this Mulvaney person, this man, dressing up as a woman in a Super Bowl ad over a year ago. All hell broke loose. They lost millions of dollars and millions of customers. And they've been trying to get their customer base back. Now, it didn't stop the degeneracy. It didn't stop the homosexual attitudes. It didn't stop the shows from coming out. But what it did do was that this year's Super Bowl, you didn't see that stuff. The advertisers were scared to death. They didn't want to see what happened to Budweiser happen to them. They realize and understand that as much as they want to be woke and placate to this woke society, they have to be mindful that those folks do not make up the majority of their constituency. That is the people that buy the stupid beer. Christians need to understand that we have power. We don't just have power from on high, we got power in our pocket, and we need to use it. Why tolerate evil? Why, remember, these goals from the Communist Party set in 1963, when we still had the Soviet Union. Communism is atheism. Communism, socialism do not believe in God, and they don't want us to believe in God. So they'll go around the edges to help destroy any biblical faith. And by Christians or so-called Christians claiming they're Christians, but won't stand up for the faith as the Bible directs us to, they win. They do what they want to do. So they present homosexuality, degeneracy, just like, I can't even watch these so-called award shows, particularly the Grammys. I mean, I don't even know what kind of debauchery they had this year, but last year they had a bunch of folks in horns and devil's costumes and all this junk. And most of those people, or many of them, worship Satan and thank him for giving them the pedestal and the money that they have. And you know what? They're thanking the right person because he did do it. He's the God of this world. His time is limited. But as the Bible says, what good is it that if you gain the whole world and lose your soul? You got this finite time to make a lot of money, to just do whatever the heck you want to do. As that old Slits commercial used to say, you only go around once in life, so give it all the gusto you have. And then you can spend eternity in torment. That's what Satan promises. Or shall I say, that's what God warns you of. Excuse me. So, there's promiscuity, normal, natural, and healthy. And our kids are learning this stuff from the schools. Goal number 27. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch. Look, people need to understand that Satan, he was stupid to go against God, but he is not unintelligent, and he is way more knowledgeable than any of us. And he will masquerade as an angel of light, and so will his servants. And now that we're over Black History Month, let me remind some people, infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. I did a 3-part series last year on Martin Luther King, and using his own documents, his own writings. The man did not believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. He did not believe in the virgin birth. He did not believe in the incarnation of Christ. The man was not a Christian. And it's my understanding, if you go to Washington, D.C. and see his monument, there's nothing on there about God. Yet he portrayed himself as a pastor. Well, he was supposedly a pastor at a church, as Dexter, I believe it was. But nevertheless, he was supposed to be a Baptist minister of the gospel. Now, we need to understand this. The Bible talks about a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing. When you look at the civil rights movement and Black Americans in particular, before 1965, before the LBJ and the Great Society, the Black two-parent household was at minimum average 75% of the population. I'm talking about married people, between 75 and 80. However, after the implementation of many of those New Deal from LBJ era and the civil rights movement, what happened to the Black family? We look at the Black family right now, the two-parent family, man and a woman, it's only 27%. The Bible says you can tell a tree by its fruit. So whatever matrix you want to call it, the fruit of the civil rights era as it pertains to the Black family is rotten fruit. And let me also remind you that Martin Luther King was the very first recipient, one of four, of the Margaret Sanger Award. The racist eugenicist woman who did a lecture in front of the KKK, who said that Black people and other people were human weeds, who said one of the greatest things that a large family could do is to kill its children. So, infiltrate the churches and replace it with a social gospel. And that is what King brought, a social gospel. He brought a gospel of trying to make people better. And I'm not going to sit over here and say that's not what he was trying to do. But when you denigrate the word of God, when you use this as a tool for your own purpose, instead of what it is, the revealed word of God, when you don't believe what it says, but yet you claim to be the messenger of God, you're a false prophet. You're a wolf in sheep's clothing. You are not worthy of listening to. And the evidence says so, historically. Now, I know many Black folks climb the walls by what I'm saying, but all I have to do is look at the evidence. Just like many Black folks are so enamored with Barack Obama because he was the first Black president. Well, he was half Black, if that matters. But the man ushered in the destruction of marriage in the United States of America, the first institution that God made. These people don't look at that. The man never denounced his advocacy for killing babies in the womb. These people don't look at that. The man helped get us to where we are now, where we have these transgender nonsense going around, and we got boys and girls locker rooms and men in women's restrooms. But these people that say they're Christians because he was Black and elevated in their minds, don't look at that. He brought in a social political era. So, like I said, King discredited the Bible by him not believing what it says. If you don't believe what it says, how can you fully provide it? And Obama brought this intellectual maturity, supposedly. And you know what? When you talk about religious crush, I think Obama said at one time that we got these people that are clinging to their guns and Bible. And of course, Obama was president when he was getting ready to go in 2012 for his second term when the Democratic Party rejected God 3 times. When they were trying to vote God in on the platform, look it up. You can see it on YouTube. They voted to place God in Israel on the platform 3 times, and 3 times on the voice vote, they rejected God. But whoever, I forgot the guy's name. He used to be the mayor of LA. He stood up there looking stupid, and some lady said, well, they're going to do what they're going to do. So they pretended like on the third time God won. And the Bible said God is not a man he should lie. And it's amazing to me that people that call themselves Christians will stand beside a party that has just rejected the God they claim they believe in. This is socialism and communism infiltrating our society and destroying it. Number 40, discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. Well, in 1963, we didn't have the no-fault divorce. Now, what is it? 50% or more marriages, people get divorced. They get divorced and remarried all the time. It means nothing. It's not a sacred institution in the eyes of many, but in the eyes of the biblical, it is. And promiscuity is rampant. I grew up at a time in the 60s, make love, not war. And when we talked about making love, we was talking about having sex. We weren't talking about just loving people. And the family, discredited of the family, that's going back to what I said originally. You send your children to school and you think the schools are going to not only educate your children, but protect them and not circumvent what you're teaching them at home. That's exactly what they do these days. Number 41, emphasize the needs to raise children away from the negative influence of parents, attribute prejudices and mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppressive influence of parents. Wow. This was a communist goal they put back in 1963. And many of us, or many of our parents, because in 63, I was 11 years old? We ignored this. We allowed those people to continue to gain power in our educational system until now it's fully metastasized into a cancer I don't think we can correct unless we break the thing apart and get our kids vouchers. People, you have to stand up. Look at what happened when Biden came in the office, and when parents during the pandemic found out that the teachers were teaching their kids stuff contrary to what the parents wanted to teach. And parents started going to Board of Education meetings, raising all kinds of hell. Then these people want to sick the Department of Justice on the parents, threatening them, calling us domestic terrorists. We let in millions of folks illegally, don't know how many of them are terrorists, sleeper cells waiting to destroy this country. But yet the Biden administration will sit over there and go after parents for trying to protect their children. Remember when Hillary Clinton read that book she did? It takes a village to raise a kid. Most Black people looked at that like, she's talking about the inclusivity of the village, as parallel with Africa and us now. No, what she's really talking about is that the government owns your kids and not you. Well, parents, you better take care of it and find out what's going on with your kids, because the government will own them. And that brings us to the next situation. That brings us to the situation, where this family in Indiana, the parents warn nation after a child is removed from home for improper pronoun usage. It says it happened to them, it can happen to you. Yes, they took this child away because the parents, the child has been going to school and getting indoctrinated. And the parents said, hey, you are who we made you. And since they won't agree, they took it away. Look at this clip from the Attorney General in Indiana. Take a look at this.
The left is not only active in Indiana, of course, but across the entire country. And really what this is about is creating chaos and division in our society. This is about dividing children from their parents. It's a lot more than just bathrooms and locker rooms. And I can give you example after example of the Democrats and the left, and led by, and in many cases in the courtroom by the ACLU, which has nothing to do with civil rights anymore or America to begin with, that are leading the charge. And so what we have to do is, as attorneys general, as citizens of this country and of the state of Indiana, is stand up and speak truth to power. Okay? There are two sexes given at birth. And when children are growing up, they need to be protected, not groomed. And the Martinsville school case, the Vigo County school case, really what it says is that Title IX, a federal law which was put in place decades ago to ensure equality for women, to protect girls, is maintained. They are completely reasonable and completely correct to say, you know what? We have girls who can be vulnerable to boys at the age that they are, and they need to be separated. And that's all that they're doing. And, and we'll support them. We've led a 21 state coalition helping the Martinsville, Indiana school system and the Vigo County school system. So we look forward to continuing that work. We're really pleased that Martinsville has asked the Supreme Court to intervene here, and we'll be with them side by side along the way. And America itself needs to wake up. This is happening everywhere. What is the it? It's the left's proliferation throughout our society. And like I said, these issues are much more than just the issue at hand that they're attacking. This is about, and they're not just social, cultural war issues. All these issues are rooted in economics. Okay, so what the left and these Marxists are doing are they're dividing fathers and mothers from their children when they don't give parental notification. They're creating chaos and division in the society. So we have to fight this stuff, and states attorneys general, certainly this one, is helping lead the charge. Well, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's dividing children from their parents. It's discrediting the notion that parents are the ones to raise their children, not the government, right? And these leftists, these radical left socialists, want nothing more than to be in charge of your kids. And you see it happening in school all the time. So yes, the office of Attorney General is extremely important. And who you elect as your Attorney General is extremely important. Former President Obama, the guy who many say started this whole movement, or at least put this movement in high gear, is the one who said elections have consequences. Well, he's absolutely right. This started actually right when I got into office, and it's taken a few turns and has recently ended in an Indiana statute that was just passed saying, you know what, transgender surgeries for Indiana inmates is prohibited. And the ACLU has immediately sued on this. Now think about this. This is a male baby murderer. He strangled an 11-month-old little girl to death. Why he's not on death row himself is another story for perhaps another day. I'd love to get into that issue. But now this grown man wants a vagina. That's it. That's what this case is about. And the ACLU, this leftist, Marxist, American hating organization, wants to fight on that hill. That's how removed from reality these leftists have become. That's how bad it is. They have no idea about the expectation of the Hoosier taxpayer and what they want to see out of the government. Hoosiers do not want to see their tax dollars going in any way to help this man with his perverse journey or the ACLU's leftist social experiments.
I'm not sure about what's going on in this story. So let's look at the report itself. I'm getting cross signals here. It says Indiana parent warned nation after child was removed from home for improper pronoun usage. Can't happen. Parents asked Supreme Court to hold Indiana responsible for removing transgender child from their home. Okay, it says Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita is backing a local school district in its appeal request to restore school policies requiring students to use facilities based on their biological sex. Well, I'm all for that. A Catholic couple in Indiana is asking the Supreme Court to hold the state accountable for keeping their child out of their home after they declined to use his chosen name and pronouns. How did we ever get here? It's amazing to me, and I think we got here because parents thought that their children were protected in schools. And we became, I'm talking about Christians, complacent. Back in 1980s, they had a book called After the Ball, and it was a playbook on gaining homosexual society acceptance. And the playbook was engineered in a manner where they were going to market it through the movies, through TV, through every avenue that they could. And they were going to make it so we eventually had to accept it. And here we are. It's no longer just let me out of the closet. It's now I'm out of the closet, and if you don't like us, get in the closet because we're going to ram it down your throat. Here we are. In MC and JV versus Indiana Department of Children's Services, Mary and Jeremy Cox are appealing to the Supreme Court after they were investigated by Indiana officials for refusing to refer to their son using pronouns and a name inconsistent with his biological sex. Now, I'm not calling my children anything other than what I would normally call them. And what kind of country is it that they're going to make parents do that? Beckett is pursuing the case on behalf of the Coxes, arguing state courts allowed Indiana to keep the child from living in his parents' home due to their disagreement with the child's gender identity because of their religious beliefs. Notably, upon completing the investigation, the state determined the allegations of abuse against Mary and Jeremy were unsubstantiated, but still argued that the disagreement over gender identity was stressing to their child. Let me say them to my Protestant friends, because I'm a Protestant. If they come after the Catholics, they come after us too. If they come after the Muslims, they can come after us too. If they come after the Buddhists, they can come after us too. Anybody that's a parent that's raising their children, called their children such and such a name, that their children need to accept until they turn 18 and leave the house and change their name legally. We should stand beside, because if they come after them, they can come after us. And we're not talking about agreeing with somebody's theology. We're talking about agreeing with their humanity. Lori Wyndham, vice president and senior counsel at Beckett, told Fox News Digital, that no parent should ever have to endure what Mary and Jeremy have been forced to go through. Keeping a child away from loving parents because of their religious beliefs, even when the state admits that there was no abuse or neglect, is wrong and it's against the law, she said. The court should take this case and make clear that other states can't take children away because of ideological disagreements. In 2019, Mary and Jeremy's son told them that he identified as a girl. It's time for intervention, for, I would say, theological help, maybe psychiatric help. But in line with their Catholic religious beliefs that God created human beings with an immutable sex, male or female, they did not believe in referring to him using pronouns and a name inconsistent with his biology. I don't blame them. I wouldn't either. Even if I wasn't a believer, I wouldn't do it. In addition, the Coxes believed their son was struggling with underlying mental health conditions, including an eating disorder. So they sought therapeutic care for both. In California, it's illegal to get therapeutic care if your child thinks they have a different gender identity. But in 2021, Indiana officials began investigating the Coxes after a report found they were not referring to their child by his preferred gender identity, removing the teen from their custody and placing them in a gender affirming home. Despite the unsubstantiated claims of abuse, they claim the Coxes made their child's eating disorder worse, even though it worsened after he was removed and placed in a transition affirming home. Our society has gotten so backwards that government thinks it runs the family when the families, the society in general, is supposed to run our government. And the government has gotten twisted that way because we let it. I remember when Terry McAuliffe was running for governor this last time in Virginia, he admitted that parents shouldn't have anything to say about what they're being taught. And that's why he lost. Because, ding dong, the parents woke up and said, wait a minute, who the heck does he think he is? These aren't his kids. He can teach his kids anything he wants to, but not mine. This is why the teachers union and the Democratic Party fight so hard against vouchers. Because if the money went with the parents, every parent can't afford private schools. Excuse me. But if parents can afford to get their kids out of the public school system, the way these people are running it, it would implode. It would be destroyed. They don't want that. They want you to stay in the public schools. They want you to continue to use the public schools, but to shut up, accept it the way they built it, and you live with it. Okay. After publication, the Office of Attorney General in Indiana, Todd Rokita, told Fox News Digital, we always protect parental rights and religious liberty. Either we nor the Indiana courts believe that the state can remove a child because of a parent's religious beliefs. Okay. Let's see how true that is. views, excuse me, need a little cough drop, mouth is getting dry. Views about gender identity or anything of the sort. Our office is fulfilling our statutory duty to protect this state agency and to keep an oath I swore when I took office. As the record shows, this state agency acted not on the use of pronouns, but because of the child's extreme eating disorder, or if the child still has an eating disorder while in a gender affirming home, maybe there's another outlying problem that didn't fix. The Indiana governor set DCS policy and hires those employees. I'm very sympathetic to the parents, and everyone who follows my work as Attorney General knows that I am the biggest defender and proponent of parental rights. See, we need to get back a hold of our society. We need to get back a hold of our children. Parents, you need to start spending more time with your kids. You need to know what's going on in these schools or get them out of them schools if they're going crazy. But you need to understand and know what's going on with your kids because many of them are being indoctrinated and polluted. Look at this picture here. This says protesters of Kentucky Bill SB 150, known as the Transgender Health Bill, cheer as speakers during a rally on the lawn at the Kentucky Capitol in Frankfort, Kentucky, March 29, 2023. Look at these children. It says protect trans kids. These kids are just reaching puberty from their parents. They don't know what's going on. When you do trans surgery on a girl and you give her a double mastectomy, she can't grow breasts again. If you destroy her vagina and you make some atrocious looking thing that it's not even close to looking like a penis. I forgot the technical name for it, but basically they're swelling up her clitoris and they're extending it out a little bit beyond her body. And I assume that maybe they can get some kind of feeling out the thing, but it is not a penis. It will not get hard. It will not work. It will never resemble anything God had created. And one day, many of these girls, they wake up to discover, what did I do to myself? There's no turning around with that. When I was a young person, I remember I got a process when that was still going around. I got my hair curled. I did all kinds of little stuff but I always knew I can cut my hair off. It'll grow back. I never wanted the tattoos. Some people want tattoos. That's on them. I never wanted them because I didn't want that stuff on me because I might get tired of it. The idea of destroying my malehood, well, that never even came into mind, of course, in my time. But with this, like this little boy here, if they convince him that he's a girl and take his penis and invert it and then create this cavity, this fake vagina, the thing will never work right. There's people that have these fake vaginas that they have to wear dildos or certain objects constantly to prevent it from closing up because that body was never designed for that. They will never reach the same kind of orgasmic quality of life that the female gets that has the real deal. And if they ever reconsider the fact that they made a mistake and that they wish they would have stayed the way God made them, there's no coming back. It's over. So these folks with this gender affirming care, which is a euphemism for child mutilation, once the child is mutilated, there's no coming back. You can't reverse it. It's sick. And I would say that if you're a grown person and you want to butcher yourself, I think it's a stupid thing, but you're grown. These are children. They're not supposed to have that kind of authority. And parents are supposed to protect them. Let's continue. This is what every parent is afraid of, Mary and Jeremy Cox said in a press release. We love our son and want to care for him, but the state of Indiana robbed us of that opportunity by taking him from our home and banning us from speaking to him about gender. These people got married, fell in love, got married, had children, or at least this one child. Now the state won't let them talk to him about who they created with the help of God. This is amazing. We have a twisted society. We are hopeful that the justices will take our case and protect other parents from having to endure the nightmare we did, they added. When the case was first heard in trial court, the Indiana officials argued the child should be in a home where she is. It's a man, remember, a boy, accepted for who she is, and restricted the Cox's visitation time to a few hours once a week. I say, ultimately, that this whole thing is demonic. You can't change who you were made in the womb. You can butcher and destroy yourself. But for a state agency to come up with this nonsense, who she is, and if she decide next week that I'm he, they say, oh, well, who he is. That's demonic. Which barred them from speaking to him about their religious views on human sexuality and gender identity. What happened to the First Amendment? So I guess the First Amendment doesn't apply to you talking to your own children if the state is involved. You can talk about that to yourself. This is why we let these liberals and these leftists and these communists take over the school systems, and our children are paying the price for it. Even though the court determined the Coxes were fit parents. Wow, they're fit parents, but they got to go through all this. It upheld the removal of their child, which was later upheld by the appeals court. If this can happen in Indiana, it can happen anywhere, Wilhelm said. That's right. Tearing a child away from loving parents because of their religious beliefs, which are shared by millions of Americans, is an outrage to the law, parental rights, and basic human decency. If the Supreme Court doesn't take this case, how many times will this happen to other families? Now, I don't know if they're talking about the Indiana Supreme Court or the United States Supreme Court. This is crazy, folks. But this is where we are. This is where we are in this society, in this warped United States of America. And I need to go back to what I was talking about Christians. There's a difference between calling yourself a Christian and being a disciple of Jesus Christ. Because if you're a disciple of Jesus Christ, as he outlined in Matthew chapter 28, hold on a second. At the very end, he said, starting in verse 18, and Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Amen. We are supposed to obey what he commanded, and we're supposed to know what he commanded. And if we obey what he commanded and know what he commanded, we're supposed to teach that to our children. And we're not supposed to allow anything or anyone or any institution to get in the way of that. And we are supposed to be light and salt in this darkened world. So when wrong comes up, we're supposed to step up. We're supposed to stand, even if we're standing against Goliath. We're supposed to stand. And they're coming after our children every way they can. And it's up to us to stop them. If we don't stop them, they don't get stopped. Because God is not going to work with us if we won't stand up for him. We need to get down on our knees, pray to him, and we need to stand and fight for him. Then he will work with us because he wants to work with us, not us just sit around, keep doing the worldly stuff and hope that he changes it. No, he will allow us to go right down the hole we want to go down. But he will deliver us and he will help us if we as a nation stand up and turn our hearts to him. You got to protect the children. You want to protect the children? Go back to the cross and then get up and fight for the children. This is Sam Tolley, and I'm out.